The day I found out my mom had stolen 5 years of my life started like any other Tuesday. I was 30 years old, living in Seattle, and running my own small graphic design studio from a converted warehouse downtown. Business was finally taking off. I had a small team, loyal clients, and enough money to stop worrying about every bill that landed in my mailbox. From the outside, it looked like I'd made it. But there was one dream I'd buried years ago. Stanford University. Ever since I was 14, I'd dreamed of studying there. I kept a picture of the campus taped inside my bedroom closet. Every night before bed, I'd stare at it and whisper to myself, "One day, Emily, one day." While other teenagers spent weekends at parties, I spent mine in the library. I graduated as valedictorian, scored nearly perfect on my SAT, volunteered every summer. My guidance counselor looked at my application and smiled. "Emily, if anyone deserves to get into Stanford, it's you." For the first time, I believed it too. The acceptance decisions were supposed to arrive on April 3rd. I remember checking the mailbox every afternoon. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, still nothing. By Friday, I couldn't stand waiting anymore. I called the admissions office. The woman on the phone politely verified my information. Then she paused. "I'm sorry. It says your admission packet was delivered 3 days ago." My heart skipped. Delivered? Yes. According to our records. I stared toward our mailbox. Empty. I searched every room in the house. Nothing. Mom looked up from the kitchen. "What are you looking for?" "My acceptance letter." She frowned. "Maybe you didn't get in." My stomach dropped. "But they said it was delivered." She shrugged without looking at me. "Maybe it got lost." Dad walked in from work. "What acceptance letter?" "The one from Stanford." He sighed. "Honey, if they wanted you, they would have called." That night, I cried myself to sleep. A week later, a rejection email finally arrived. It said my enrollment deadline had expired. Because I had never responded, I felt like my world had ended. Life didn't stop. It never does. I enrolled at the local community college. Transferred to the University of Washington 2 years later. Worked 2 jobs to pay tuition. Graduated without debt. Built my own career. Everyone told me I should be proud. I smiled. But every time someone mentioned Stanford, something inside me hurt. 5 years later, everything changed. It was my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. Dad wanted to renovate the basement before guests arrived. I volunteered to help. We spent hours sorting through dusty boxes filled with old photo albums, Christmas decorations, and forgotten paperwork. Near the back of an old filing cabinet, I found a small blue envelope. The Stanford University logo immediately caught my eye. My hands froze. It was addressed to me. The postmark. 5 years earlier. I stared at it. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. The envelope had never been opened. Slowly, my fingers trembled as I broke the seal. Inside was a thick packet. The first line read, "Congratulations, Emily Parker. It is our pleasure to offer you admission to Stanford University with the Presidential Academic Scholarship covering full tuition." My knees nearly gave out. A full scholarship. I kept reading. housing assistance, leadership program, research opportunities. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd dreamed about, had been sitting inside a dusty filing cabinet for 5 years. Hidden, forgotten, or hidden on purpose. I walked upstairs holding the envelope. Mom was arranging flowers in the dining room. She smiled. "Did you find anything interesting?" I placed the acceptance letter on the table. Her smile disappeared. For several seconds, she didn't say a word. Her face turned completely pale. Dad looked back and forth between us. "What's going on?" I held up the letter. "My Stanford acceptance." Silence. I looked directly at Mom. "Why was it in the basement?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I asked again. "Mom, why?" Dad picked up the letter and began reading. His eyes widened. "What is this?" Then he looked at Mom. "You told us she wasn't accepted." She slowly sat down. Tears filled her eyes. I can explain." I folded my arms. "Please do." She covered her face with both hands. When the letter arrived, I opened it. Dad stared at her. "You what?" I knew it was wrong. I know. But I panicked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You opened my college acceptance." She nodded. "I saw the scholarship. I saw California. I saw that you'd be leaving." She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. I wasn't ready to lose my little girl. I stared at her in disbelief. "So you hid it?" She whispered. "I told myself I'd give it to you later." But every day that passed, it became harder. So when the enrollment deadline expired, I threw the rest of the paperwork into the basement. I felt physically sick. "You stole 5 years of my life." "I know." "You stole my future." "I know." "You lied to Dad." "I know." Every answer was the same. "I know." Dad stood up so quickly his chair crashed onto the floor. "You let me believe my daughter wasn't good enough." Mom sobbed harder. I was scared. Dad shook his head. "No. You were selfish." I had never seen my father speak to her like that. Not once. He turned toward me. "Emily. I swear to you. I had no idea." I believed him. His anger was real. His heartbreak was real. Mine was impossible to describe. For 5 years, I'd blamed myself. Thought I wasn't smart enough. Thought I'd failed. When the truth was, I had achieved my dream. Someone else simply decided I wasn't allowed to live it. I looked at my mother one last time. Then quietly picked up the acceptance letter. "I need some air." I walked out the front door. And for the first time in my life, I realized the biggest obstacle I'd ever faced was never my grades, never my talent, never my circumstances. It had been the person I trusted most. I drove for almost an hour without knowing where I was going. Seattle's streets blurred together through my tears. I finally pulled into a quiet parking lot overlooking Puget Sound. The acceptance letter sat on the passenger seat. I picked it up again. "Congratulations, Emily Parker." Those 2 words haunted me. For 5 years, I believed I hadn't been good enough. I questioned my intelligence, my talent, my future. When the truth was, I'd actually earned everything I'd dreamed of. Someone else had simply decided I didn't deserve to know. For the next week, I ignored every call from my parents. Mom left voicemail after voicemail. "Emily, please. I'm so sorry. We need to talk." I couldn't. Not yet. Some betrayals don't make you angry. They leave you empty. This time it was Dad. "Can we meet?" I agreed. We met at a small coffee shop where he'd taken me for hot chocolate when I was a kid. He looked older. Much older. He placed a folder on the table. "I've been talking to Stanford." I looked at him, confused. "You what?" "They still had your records. They confirmed everything. The scholarship. The honors program. The acceptance." Every word felt like another knife. Dad lowered his head. "I failed you." "No, Dad. You didn't know." "I should have. I trusted everyone was telling the truth." "You deserved a father who asked more questions." For the first time, I reached across the table and held his hand. "We both lost something." He nodded silently. 2 weeks later, Stanford invited me to campus. Not as a student. As a guest. The admissions director wanted to meet me after hearing what had happened. Walking through those famous stone archways, I felt a strange mix of pride and grief. This place could have been my home. The admissions director greeted me warmly. "We've honestly never seen a case quite like yours." She paused. "You earned your place here." She handed me a framed copy of my original acceptance certificate. "You may not have attended Stanford, but you'll always be someone we believed in." I couldn't stop crying. Before I left, she smiled. "You know, it's never too late to learn." Those words stayed with me. A month later, I enrolled in Stanford's Executive Leadership Program. Not because I needed another degree. Because I refused to let my story end with stolen opportunities. Every Friday, I'd fly from Seattle to California. Attend classes. Network with entrepreneurs. Then fly home Sunday night. It was exhausting. But every lecture felt like reclaiming a piece of my future. Meanwhile, Mom kept trying to rebuild our relationship. She sent handwritten letters, birthday cards, old photographs. I read every one. I answered none. Until one afternoon, a package arrived. Inside was a worn-out journal. It belonged to Mom. A note rested on top. "If you ever want to understand why I became the mother who hurt you, read this." I wasn't sure I wanted to. But curiosity won. The journal began 28 years earlier. "Today Emily took her first steps. I'm terrified she'll grow up and leave me someday." As the entries continued, the fear became obvious. Every milestone made Mom anxious. First day of school. First sleepover. First driver's license. She wrote. Every year she needs me a little less. Then I reached an entry dated 5 years earlier. The day my acceptance letter arrived. Today Stanford accepted Emily. I should be happy. Instead, I couldn't breathe. California is so far away. What if she never comes home? The final sentence broke my heart. I'd rather have her hate me nearby than lose her forever. I closed the journal. For the first time, I understood. Understanding didn't erase the pain, but it explained it. Mom hadn't acted out of hatred. She acted out of fear. A fear so unhealthy. It destroyed the very relationship she was trying to protect. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. Mom opened the door. The moment she saw me, she started crying. "I didn't think you'd come." I held up the journal. "I read it." She looked down. "I'm ashamed." "You should be." She nodded. "I know." We sat together on the back porch. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, she whispered, "I stole your future because I couldn't imagine mine without you." I took a deep breath. "You know what hurts the most?" "What?" "You never trusted that I'd come back." She burst into tears. "I know. I thought love meant holding on." I shook my head. "No. Love means letting people grow. And believing they'll still find their way home." Months passed. Healing came slowly. Some conversations ended in tears. Others ended in silence. But little by little, we started rebuilding. Not the relationship we'd had. A better one. One built on honesty. A year later, my design company won the National Creative Innovation Award. Over 500 business leaders attended the ceremony. The event was held in San Francisco, just 30 minutes from Stanford. As I walked onto the stage, the host smiled. "Emily Parker, you've built one of the fastest growing creative firms in America. What motivates you?" I looked across the audience, then smiled. For years, I believed one missed opportunity had ruined my life. I was wrong. The room became completely silent. I learned something important. People can delay your journey. They can even steal opportunities. But they cannot steal your ability to begin again. The audience erupted into applause. In the front row, I saw Mom and Dad standing. Both crying. Both clapping harder than anyone else. After the ceremony, Mom hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you." I smiled. "I know." Those two words meant more than either of us could explain. Because for the first time, neither of us was carrying secrets anymore. A few weeks later, I returned to Stanford one final time. This time as a guest speaker. Standing in front of hundreds of incoming freshmen, I held up my original acceptance letter. I was supposed to be sitting where you are today. Almost 6 years ago. The room fell silent. My journey didn't go according to plan. But sometimes, the road you never wanted leads you exactly where you're meant to be. As I walked off the stage, I looked back one last time. I didn't feel regret anymore. Only gratitude. Because losing one dream had given me the strength to build another. Real love should never control someone's future. The people who truly love you don't hold you back because they're afraid of losing you. They encourage you to grow, even when it means letting you go. And remember, a delayed dream is painful. But it doesn't have to become a dead dream. If someone stole 5 years of your future, even someone you loved, could you truly forgive them? Let me know in the comments.